Well, I did it. Made it aboard the Kwai, finally. Thought for sure I was gonna get arrested upon landing on Christmas Island, but Brad pulled a few strings, wrote some important letters, and basically said I was necessary as part of, you know, we're all on board. Yeah, anyways, we're heading off to Cook Islands. We're leaving right now. Anchors are being pulled. We're on our way. Adventure awaits.
Stati ka camera mo nanganganila. Dahil bilhin ako na tawa mo. Ano nakabili lagi yan? Tawa, magkakamera mo. No. One thing is again, yeah, yeah. Dipin no, Ari. Tama tunggu namu.
Well, we're down to 1300 RPM, and we're averaging 6.5 knots, which is pretty good.
Yeah, very good.
You got it?
Well, sails have been set and we're about 3 miles away from crossing the equator. And apparently there's some long-held tradition for those who have who are crossing the equator for the first time aboard a vessel, and it's a secret tradition, so I really have no idea what it's gonna be. Yeah, I'm excited to cross the equator for the first time on a ship. That's a cool thing to check off the bucket list.
You're not happy, are you? We need some. We need some mean people. Go get some mean.
We need some mean people.
Get the mean people. I don't know. This is awful short notice. Are we there? Are we there yet?
No, where are we now?
We're 2 minutes north. 2 more miles. You look beautiful today, my lovely wife.
Thank you.
I'm sorry about these people invading our ocean. We need compost. Compost and grease.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you know what?
Well, you asked for it. You asked for it.
No, let's just pass on it. Okay, I'm going to bed.
So there's a tradition as we cross the equator. Don't know what it is quite yet, but it involves Neptune, some composting grease, and Neptune's wife.
Ketchup.
As well as some ketchup. So we got a thing going on here.
We need maybe ketchup and soy sauce. Ketchup and soy sauce, and maybe the fire hose. We need the fire hose. Get the fire hose.
I don't know if I'm more worried about the fire hose or the compost.
Oh, you gotta have the fire hose after the compost.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's perfect. Yeah, don't need the fire hose. And maybe just ketchup and soy sauce. We'll never mind the compost. They're too pitiful.
Too pitiful.
Too pitiful for compost.
What? T-minus 1 minute away from the equator?
Something like that. Something like that.
Oh no. The captain's acting erratic. Seems as if we're about to cross.
Out of my way, Pollywog.
Yeah, Pollywog. That means you haven't crossed the equator yet. We're soon to be non-Pollywoggs. What's the terminology for a non-Pollywog?
I don't know.
Shellback.
Shellback? We're about to be shellbacks.
If they survive.
If we survive. So you're a pollywog as well then? Are all pollywogs within the cabin?
No, Nathan's not here.
Yeah, Nathan's a Pollywog.
Yeah, but he's not here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should we?
Well, go get him.
What?
Oh, where's the other Pollywog?
Hey. Come on, Nathan.
He's in a lot of trouble now.
See, Pollywog is not in
Get here! Pollywog, go over there.
Smells bad.
Smells bad. He smells bad. All these people smell bad. Now, it's come to my attention that you people have invaded my kingdom. My kingdom is south of this equator, and you're about to cross into my kingdom without permission! What have you got to say for yourself? Never mind, I don't want to hear it. You must be punished. You think they must be punished?
Yeah, must be.
The ketchup for them! And the soy sauce. Not the good soy sauce either, the bad soy sauce.
Ketchup, soy sauce.
If any of them give you any trouble, we'll get the compost. You find this amusing, Mr. Engineer? Something amusing about this? Yeah, make them smoke tobacco. Where's the ketchup?
Ketchup.
Ketchup and the soy sauce.
Huh?
I don't know, I like them with a little barbecue sauce too. What do you think we should do with them, my lovely wife? Should we put ketchup on them?
Yes.
Okay, put ketchup on him. Put it on his foot. Just put it on his foot. Okay.
Oh, the sticky soy. Oh no. Oh no. Oh man, you're getting properly pollywogged.
Vinegro biram. Mangkangiyaki. Mangkangiyaki. Sini kamu mau yang gini.
Now he's fried, and then dump him overboard. That was a proper pollywogging. All right,
that was.
Lurleen, you're next.
Oh, no. He did it for all. He took one for the whole group.
You took one for the team.
No, nawana dobu.
Captain, were you satisfied with the pollywog?
Yes, I think they have had enough. humiliation and have demonstrated enough, loyalty to King Neptune in the Southern Ocean that perhaps we shall let their worthless hides exist longer on the Earth.
6 seconds. 3.
Every time that happens, I feel like the circus is going to town.
Sesame Street.
No.
Yeah. I jazzed it up a little. Neptune is accepting our presence in the Southern Ocean.
Excellent.
It was close call though.
My name is Kim Smith. I'm from Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, and I first met Brad when he brought the Kwai across the Atlantic from Portugal, and he landed in Lunenburg, and with the intention of starting a small cargo operation with the Kwai, and we just became friends, and one thing led to another, and now I'm captain. I started going to sea seriously when I was about 20 years old. And I started out as a fisherman in Lunenburg, and we fished all year round on Georges Banks for scallops, and of course the weather was terrible, and we had icing conditions and freezing conditions and tremendous gales of wind in the winter, and it was not a very pleasant way to make a living. But I did that for 12 years, and I got a few of my tickets for sailing my own vessel, and that's a bit of a process to go through all the schooling. I think I've gone through about 9 years of schooling so far, and then when I finished fishing, I got involved with tall ships and sail training. So I apprenticed first, and I learned about square rig sailing, and then I became an officer on one vessel, the Picton Castle. Picton Castle is a sail training vessel that does world voyages. I think she's on her 8th world voyage, and on her first world voyage I was the carpenter, and so that's where I got my schooling on square rig, and then I was chief mate with a outfit called Class Afloat that does sail training for high school students. And they also teach high school courses while they're at sea. They're called Class Afloat. And I was chief mate with them. They had a 3-masted barkentine called Concordia, and then I was master of an 850-ton barkentine tour boat that operated in the Caribbean and Canada. It operated in Canada in the summer and the Caribbean in the winter. So all together I had about, 5 or 6 years of solid square rig sailing. And the Kwai, compared to those vessels, the Kwai is much smaller, but she actually carries cargo and does real work, and we go to more remote places. Not exactly more remote places, but we go to long distances and remote places, and it's a fun little operation, and we're more like a family than we are crew. So it's a pretty fun gig. The Kwai was originally a herring drifter, as I understand, and she had the same cargo handling equipment that she has now, which is an 8-ton boom. She would drift with a net, and the herring would come in the net, and then she would lift the net up with the boom. And apparently she could steer going forwards or backwards. She had a rudder on each end, and but that was done away with when she actually, I think she actually was a cargo vessel shortly after she stopped fishing. And as the coast of Norway needs lots of little cargo vessels, and I think she was probably carrying, gravel for roads or maybe some asphalt or something like that. When Brad found the vessel in Norway, she had been abandoned. She had had a fire, and she wasn't even tied to a dock. She was tied to a rock in the middle of the harbor. I'm not even sure which town she came from, but she was basically a derelict when he found her. But he recognized the lines, the easily driven lines that could be converted to sail, and he familiar with the type of vessel that she was, and she had quite a pedigree. She was built in Germany, and I think the name of the builders was Abking and Rasmussen, a very reputable builder, and when you look at the way the plating is done, it's a old riveted construction, but it's just beautiful. The streaks of plating are perfect, and they're just done beautifully. You look at her stern, it's like a painting. It's so well done. It's riveted steel. From what I understand, when vessels were still being riveted, steel was softer, and it had less carbon in it, which meant its tensile strength was less, but it also meant that it didn't corrode as fast as today's high tensile, high carbon steel. The same steel today would have disintegrated by now, but the Kwai still got good thick plating. When after the Kwai had her rig finished, I sailed with the vessel through the Panama Canal with Brad as captain, and then I took over as captain in Panama and sailed the vessel to Hilo, Hawaii, with our load of lumber, and I think that trip was 33 days, if I recall, from Panama to Hilo, and it was downwind all the way, and we set a lot of sails, and we jury rigged a lot of sails, and we managed to get there only having used 1/3 of our fuel that we budgeted for the trip. That's when they started. They had got a berth in Honolulu and started loading cargo for the Line Islands and the Cook Islands. Very soon after the vessel got to Hawaii, she was put to work. At that time we had 5 crew. Now we have 14 crew, and we did all the same things. It just took us a lot longer, and we were very bad at it at first. And the operation has evolved to be pretty efficient, and we have a lot of customers, and we move a lot of cargo, and the container lines are starting to cut into our business a little bit, but then we have the flexibility to expand as well. So it's a evolution like everything else. Well, when we first started, we didn't have any water maker. We had only the main mast, no mizzen mast. The bridge was quite high, and the forecastle was a no man's land. The accommodations were not finished by any means. They were just a place to lie your body. The galley was half the size it is now. It was very small, very, very small galley. And bear in mind, we sometimes take, between islands, we can take 40 passengers, and we have to feed them out of that little space. So the conditions were a lot more challenging in those days, and now we have a mizzen mast. Right now, as we speak, we're sailing. We don't have the engine on, and that was a rare occurrence before we got our second mast. The bridge has been lowered, and captain actually has his own cabin now, and we're able to do office work and navigation comfortably in the same space on the bridge. And the galley is doubled in size. The forecastle is a palace now. All engine room and electrical issues have been ironed out. Everything works tip-top, and the crew is well experienced now. Everybody knows what they're doing, and it's getting to be a real pleasure to work here. I had a 10-year absence from the Kwai. I was doing other work, and I just came back for old time's sake. The islands, from when we first started to go to the islands, they had very little goods from the outside world. Rice was a total luxury. They would bring out the rice on Sunday for an extra special treat, and they had generators, but they didn't have any solar equipment or anything like that. There's a very odd generator if a person wanted to, like, watch a movie or have an electric light. They would start up a generator and have electric light and a television in one of the manyebas, where it's a central location where everybody in the community could sit around under a light bulb and watch TV and get together. And now most homes have a source of light and a power, and also the solar panels brought hot water, and they brought refrigeration. So, and the Line Islands now have air transport, and that's huge. I mean, they've gone from having to wait months to go between the islands, to be able to go there anytime they want, for a price, of course, but everything comes with a price. But if someone's sick now, they don't have to die right there. They can go to the hospital. If there's an emergency anywhere, they can just hop on a plane and go. And from Christmas Island, you can fly anywhere in the world. So, I mean, those little remote islands that never saw a boat only once or twice a year now can have access to the whole world. It's a whole different ball game. The Kwai definitely brought the 21st century to the Line Islands quicker than if we didn't exist. Because we brought all the technology. We brought building materials. We brought bad things too. We brought sodas and sugar and flour and rice, and but I mean those things are coming. Container ships are now supplying them. Actually, better than us. They're cutting into the business quite a bit. So we're going to have to scramble to find something else. But we do something that none of the other shippers do. We operate a store, and so people can buy things they need right on the spot. And that's something the other shippers don't do. And that's another thing that's evolved over the years. It's gone from a very small kind of a fun little operation to one of the mainstays of our income. We definitely weren't the first to bring in sugar and flour and rice and sodas, but we brought it regularly. They can have it regularly now. And actually now our competition in the shipping business, they're undercutting the price that we can't ship our products as cheaply as a container vessel can. So we're losing a lot of business that way. But so they're really getting a lot of cheap flour, sugar, and rice now. The container ships don't go to the smaller islands, but they put cheap rice on Christmas Island, and then any passing vessel can bring it to the islands. I don't know how many sailing cargo ships there are in the world. You could probably count them on the fingers of both hands. The reason it works on the Kwai is because it's a small enough ship that it doesn't require a huge amount of capital to keep it going. It still requires, I think the overheads to run a small vessel like this are around $2,000 a day. So that's what you have to make before you even show a profit. So because the Kwai is very fuel efficient because of the sails, and because she's big enough to carry a good amount of cargo, but she's not too big that you can't support it, she falls right in that little niche, right in that little sweet spot that it's possible to make a profit and operate the vessel. And I think it's quite unique in that way, because you could err one way or the other. Too small, it wouldn't work. Too big, it wouldn't work. But this is just the right size. The reason this vessel was chosen was exactly for that reason. And Brad had experience running other vessels, and knows how much it costs, knows how much cargo. This vessel is registered for 180 tons in the hold, and he knows, in a practical sense, what that means for profit, and how you can't. If your vessel is too small, you have to charge too much for your cargo to make it worthwhile, and if it's too big, you don't have enough cargo to fill it. So you want your vessel full, running at capacity all the time, and he had a good sense of what that would take. Today we carry roughly the same cargo that we carried when we first started. There's the only difference that I can see in the type of cargo that we carry is that we carry a lot of electronics now. We carry tablets and computers and hard drives and memory cards and all the stuff that was practically it was just new when we started the operation, and nobody on the islands had any of that technology, but they're getting wired now, and they have a rudimentary internet service on the islands. It's pretty slow stuff, but they can access the world through the internet now, and that was something they couldn't do when we first started. They didn't have that when we first started. They have that now. If it turned out that the container ships cut into too much of the business in the line islands, it could work out badly for the people in the outer islands, because we're really their only link to the main island, Christmas Island, for cargo. I mean, you can't carry bags of rice, flour, and sugar on a cargo plane or on a passenger plane flying between the islands. I mean, you can, but in a limited way, but it would just cost too much. And if the people in the Line Islands lose the Kwai, it's going to be quite a hardship for them because they depend on her, and she's regular. And we transport their copra. The only way they have to make a living is to sell copra, and we're the only way that copra gets to market at this point. So they would be very hard pressed if the Kwai had to stop operation. So copra is a very interesting subject because it's as ancient as the society of the islands, and it's always been a good cash crop for the local people, and it's also a political football because whatever government pays the most for copra is the government that's going to get elected. So they put the price of copra unrealistically high, and so the people are voraciously cutting copra, and it's getting scarcer and scarcer. And people are moving to islands where there's more copra, so they can cut more copra. So the Line Islands are actually increasing in population because of this trend. They crack down on people cutting copra from live trees, or cutting live coconuts off the trees, and there's a heavy fine, and I think there's a prison term for cutting a fresh coconut for copra, and that's also a major food source for the local population. So it's the copra situation is getting very, very strange. But the other thing is that the copra just piles up and piles up, huge buildings full of bursting at the seams with copra, and it's not getting moved to the market, and it's going bad, and every time Kwai goes to the Line Islands, it moves hundreds of tons of copra to the market, and if, I mean, that would be worse for the government than for the people, because they sell their copra before it goes into warehouses. But after it goes into warehouses, if it doesn't go anywhere, the government doesn't get any money. The government might have to subsidize Kwai if it wants to keep moving copra. The Cook Islands, especially the northern Cooks, are fairly remote from any source of supply, and especially Tongareva, where we're headed right now, is the northernmost island of the Cooks, and it takes about 5 or 6 days to get to Penrhyn Island or Tongareva Island from Rarotonga, which is nearest port of supply, which is a tremendous, and it's against the current and against the prevailing wind. So it's a fairly economically intensive operation to get anything to Penrhyn Island, and so therefore they can go a year without a supply vessel coming in there, and so the Kwai is quite welcome. And we come from the north, and it takes us 4 or 5 days to sail from Christmas Island, and but our first stop is Penrhyn, and but the Cook Islands, they have a few different ways of making money. Fish, they can sell their fish quite readily. They don't have a copra industry, and Manahiki has a booming pearl farm industry there. So they're quite rich. Those people on Manahiki Island are quite rich. A lot of people that work on the Cook Islands, they have government jobs, and they get paid from the government. That goes for the Line Islands too, and the Kiribati, but they don't have as many of those jobs. They don't have a lot of infrastructure. But they survive the way they've survived for thousands of years. They fish, they eat breadfruit and coconuts, and they buy a little bit of flour and sugar and rice or the luxuries if the supply vessels ever show up, and they go to church on Sunday, and they live their life. But there's not a lot of rich people on those islands. The difference in the lifestyle between the Cook Islands and the Line Islands is that the Cook Islands are all connected with telephones, cell phone. Everybody in the islands can talk to each other on the cell phones. They have. It used to be the difference that the Cook Islands had air service and the Line Islands didn't, but now the Line Islands do that. But the Cook Islands also have air service to the islands. And then I notice a little bit of difference. It's more like the Cook Islands are more like our Western society, and the Line Islands have retained more of the original culture. I also notice the diet of the Cook Islanders is more Western than on the Line Islands, but they're much the same in their attitudes and their culture. In recent years, we've had to stop going to Rarotonga down farther south because the islands farther south have been starting to be serviced by other vessels, and so it's not really worth our while to go there anymore. But the northern group, the northern islands, are still remote enough from Rarotonga that it's worth it for us to come from Honolulu and give them their goods. But it's cut our Cook Island route in half. So we only do half the amount of the Cook Islands that we used to do because the southern part of the northern group has 4 vessels servicing it now. So it really doesn't matter to them whether we come or not.
How's your song coming along?
Not very good. I have to work on that a little.
What islands are we visiting in the Cook group?
Tongareva, Manahiki, Rakahanga, Puka Puka, Nassau. Tongareva, Manahiki,
Tongareva is the
Rakahanga,
sea.
Nassau, Puka Puka.